Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I want to ask everybody to please like and follow. So today I'm going back to like some classic prison stories. I'm very grateful for what's been happening with my website and my career, but I don't want to like just push that. So this is something that's actually from my book. I'm not just going to read it word for word. Maybe I will in another video, but you can get my book in the description. I'm going to link to the PDF, and I'll tell you what page it's on in the description. But today I'm talking about mentally challenged inmates I've done time with. And yeah, that I've done enough. There's enough stories to fill up a whole chapter in a book. Yeah. Um, these guys, I would say they slip through the cracks, but that's kind of a really generous way to say it because, I don't know the exact intricacies of the legal system in jails and MDOC, but I do know that these people with clear extra chromosomes or whatever, they didn't just slip past one person. There was like multiple levels of people that had to like sign off like, okay, see you in the next level. And I have to wonder why, or you have to wonder why. And I've noticed, this is just anecdotal, but most of these guys, at least in prison, some of these stories aren't from prison, they're from parole violator camps. But in prison, they pretty much always have, how will we say for the algorithm, cases that victimize the wee ones, you know what I mean? So it's hard for me to feel any sympathy, and I often think that probably the people who are supposed to stop this or filter them out probably felt a similar way. And I've seen that. I've seen in Saginaw County Jail where they had guys who had heinous crimes like stuff against the wee ones. And they aren't supposed to be housed in general population, especially if their crime is like on the news and stuff. And because they'll get torn up, and the police specifically put them in Gen Pop just to get torn up. And I'm not exactly against that, and I've helped them out a few times. But anyways, that's, I get the feeling that that's the reason a lot of these guys have those type of cases. The first example though was not that. This is an example that really got me angry. This kid, we'll call him Jordan. So he had, for one, he had fetal alcohol syndrome, and he was also he was either autistic or had Asperger's, he said. And this kid loved Ark Survival Evolved. We're in the parole violator camp, and he's promising all these gangbangers like, hey, I'll spawn you a dinosaur on my server. Let me get a ramen noodle. But this kid's story of what happened, he was playing Ark Survival Evolved, and his punk ass mom tried to cut off his gaming time. So he wasn't having it, and he wanted to keep gaming. You know how it is when mom's being a bitch and you want to keep gaming. So I guess she ended up like, she unplugged the laptop or something, and he threw a fit. So the mom called the police. And I think when you haven't dealt with like what happens when you call law enforcement for a domestic situation, I don't know how it is in your state, but in Michigan, like somebody is going to jail. That's pretty much how it works. And I know why, because there's probably been so many times where the cops like, okay, we'll leave, and then something bad happens. So anyways, he got put through the system for that. What happens? So the police come, and keep in mind, this kid had fetal alcohol syndrome. He was about 80 pounds, very small. And the police tried to wrestle away his laptop, and he resisted. So that was his crime. He got charged with resisting and obstructing on a police officer. But it's like, dude, if I was a cop, especially a big burly cop like they all are, almost, and some little 80-pound kid like wrestled a laptop away from me, I would feel like such a punk coward to like, oh, I'm going to write resisting and obstructing. You know what I mean? Like, that's one I would kind of write off. But yeah, this kid was like put through, they literally took this kid and like threw the sheep to the wolves. And for the most part, you'd be surprised. People treated him well. They recognized that he shouldn't have been in there. But communal living is not easy. And this kid, the autism made him not cut out for this kind of life. And he was what they would call a bug. He was very annoying and he really pushed people to the limits. I ended up getting out, but I heard like someone ended up like choking him out and then ran away. Oh, because at the parole violator camp, you're not locked in. You can leave. You'll have a warrant, but you can leave. It's called TRICAP. So anyways, that's what happened to him. The next kid, this was also at TRICAP. This was when I was on the parole side. So this kid had a similar thing. We'll call him DeMarcus. Now this kid straight up had Down syndrome, as in like when you the almond shaped eyes, and they bring him into, not only do they bring him into the parole probation violator camp, they put him on the MDOC side, which is like the hardcore guys, like out of prison. And we're like, what? Are you kidding me? So he had a similar story. He like got into it with his mom and she called the police, and he, kind of threw like a tantrum or whatever. Now he was a bigger boy. This was a big boy. He had on this Pikachu shirt, I remember, with like Japanese writing under it. And man, he was an all right kid, man. He could be a little annoying with the food. Like, man, if you couldn't open a bag of chips in the unit, or he'd be, hey. I remember there was this dude in there, Derek. This dude had a big old Swazi tattooed on his chest. And he opens like a bag of Doritos, and this little the little DeMarcus kid from across the unit is A-N-word. And this dude don't think he's talking to him. So A-N-word. He's keeping his N-word. And he's like, dude, are you talking to me? It's like, yeah, let me get a chip, N-word. He's like, and this dude's got a big Swazi on his chest, and he like looks at him crazy and goes, what does he say? He's like, don't call me that. He goes, I'm meth and moonshine, hillbilly homicide. And they ended up kind of like being little friends. Like he shared his chips with them. Man, this kid was so like food motivated though, man. He'd beg the police. I watched this kid beg the police for like hours that he was hungry and to get another tray of food. And finally he got one of the female guards to cave. They go get him the tray of food. He takes it, looks at it, walks to the trash and dumps it, and then just goes back to his bunk. The police were so pissed. Well, anyways, like I said, in the parole violator camp, you can just leave. Like they're not, you'll have a warrant, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing keeping you in there. They even take you outside on smoke breaks. So eventually this kid figured out that, the door wasn't locked like when he was in jail. Oh, that's the other thing. So they had put him in jail originally. And because they knew he couldn't hack it in Gen Pop, they put this kid with Down syndrome in solitary for weeks or months. And oh my, I can't imagine. But anyways, like, that's horrible. That makes me despise the system. But anyways, this kid eventually realized he's not locked in and starts talking about leaving. And I'm like, dude, you don't. And I try to explain to him, bro, like, you don't just get to go free. They're going to get you. And not only that, they aren't going to take you back here. They're going to put you back in jail. You would be lucky to come back here, but it's probably going to be back to jail if you run once. And he just, obviously, he doesn't understand the logic. So I think to myself, like, okay, I'll call this kid's mom. It costs like $3, $4 to make a phone call. I call his mom, who, wasn't a genius herself, and she accidentally hangs up the phone. So there's $4 gone. I call back again, and I start talking to this lady, and like, I'm telling her, like, yo, your kid wants to leave. First of all, like, I'm talking about the legal repercussions. Like, you're going to go back to jail. They're going to violate you. It's going to be worse. And then I'm like, not only that, we're in the middle of like the hood, and this kid doesn't know where he's going or he's going to get hit by a freaking car or abducted. And I'm trying to tell the mom, like, yo, you need to tell this kid, like, and she's like, it's like not processing. Like, she's basically saying, like, it is what it is. And I'm like, well, tell him something. Like, no offense, but he's not the hardest kid to trick. Just tell him you can't do it. And she just completely failed the mission. So, and I'm like, I'm not trying to put myself out there as some crusader or something, but this was like, dude, that kid could have got hurt. So I go to the police and I'm like, you can't let this kid leave. And they're like, well, there's technically, we can't do anything to stop him. And I'm like, dude, okay, I know the rule book, but look at him. He has we're in the middle of the hood on a busy street. How do you think it's going to look when he gets hit by a car? You think they're not going to try to hold you responsible for that? Like, lie to him. Tell him there's fucking ghosts outside. I don't know. Do something. And they just had a complete refusal to act. And like I tried everything beyond like physically restraining the kid, and he left. I never found out what happened to him. But that, I don't know, man. There's right and wrong, and like I think that's clearly an instance where you make an exception and don't let the kid leave. It was ridiculous to me to see that. Okay, so then the next one. Now we're going to some more nefarious ones. There's this dude in MDOC, Roger. This is a shorter story. So he was another one who definitely I think had some Down syndrome type deal. And he had like a very heinous case against the wee ones. So I didn't really feel bad for him. People used to mess with him. They'd be like, hey, Roger, ride the horsey. And he'd like get a broom and ride around. So then some guys, he really liked peanut butter. Some guys put peanut butter on the end of a broom and had him suck it off. Now there was another old predator. I need to do a video on him. Old predator named Crump. He kind of looked like that cartoon frog. Crump peeped that from back in the cut, and he put peanut butter somewhere else. And long story short, like I go out on the yard and there's literally like crime scene tape, like they taped off where it happened in the unit, and like Crump got sent away, but he ended up coming back. So I think he ended up like beating that case or didn't get in trouble for it. But yeah, they got Roger. Then, this is the classic. So this was a kid in county jail, Robbie Raby, we'll call him. Visually, this kid looked dead on like the son from American Dad, Steve, like dead on. And he had, I don't know what he had, but he had like a pervy crime. I'll tell you about the crime first. So he was like walking home and he saw this girl's house who he used to ride the bus with. And he was walking home from the store where he purchased 1 2-liter of Mountain Dew and a can of Pringles. He also had his hat on. He let us know that. And he sees this girl's house. Now, cut to a little bit later, this girl comes home and walks up to her room and like screams. And the dad runs up with a gun and sees Robert Raby's boots sticking out from under the bed. And, he's got like a pair of her panties or whatever. And, so anyways, he gets arrested for like B&E and whatever. And this kid, the crazy thing is in county jail, they have a med cell. And, I haven't told you what he'd like. So anyways, anytime you would talk about his crime, like, yo, Rob, why were you sniffing that girl's panties? He would do this thing where he like shut down like a robot, like. And I'm trying to remember this kid. I remember he'd get like a gargoyle on top of the bunks and like jump around, and he'd fall. We'd try to help him order store, and he'd just put like 99 of everything. He couldn't conceptualize math. He tried to play Uno and he'd play like all of his cards at once. Like he was just gone. He was very, how would you say, like high support needs, I suppose. And they had him just back there with everybody else. Yeah, man. And that kid, he'd just like go to cells and like, dude, you can't, if you've never been in jail, it's like hardcore communal, especially those little county jails, you're close together. And like people would try to make it work, but eventually like Robert Raby would push them to their last nerve and they'd end up like, dude, you got to get the hell out of here. Yeah, it was just crazy. I think eventually they did put him in the med cell and they got him sedated from what it looked like. But yeah, it was just crazy. I got to watch the length on these videos, but I could go on. That's about half of them. I have a lot planned for YouTube this week. I was going to do one about how I got into the line of work I do now. I was going to do one about how I originally got addicted in the first place. I was going to do, I have a lot of good ideas. Maybe make some suggestions. Like, what do you want to know about my life? I'm also going to do a lot more about my book. And also, I'd like to announce that my girlfriend is going to be doing her own YouTube about trans topics. So we have all that coming. Thank you so much. I appreciate all your support. And I really, I'm glad to get back to like the original content. And I'm very blessed for like the income I have now. Thank you so much.